The sky died with sunset. We had to reach the center before darkness fell on Eld Island. At night, it is not only a favorable environment for monster illusions and enemies, but also increases the risk of being attacked by mushroom spores. It is because it is difficult to distinguish the surrounding. Clearance neutral attribute 7. You're doing great, Ian. I used clearly from time to time to check the status of Ian and Kaya. Fortunately, the two were moving towards the center of Eld Island without any problems. That's the momentum. Stay strong, Ian. Yeah, I'm the one who has to be strong. Bana. The battle was abandoned when Ice and Snow Dragon Hill reported finding a fanged hippopotamus. You've already reached that section. There was a fear that my side would be hunted from now on. I wanted to recruit a colleague as planned, but I couldn't find a decent student. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Maybe it was because I was getting closer to the center, and on Eld Island, the fantasies of bird monsters began to stalk me whenever they had a chance. Because of that, I wore a camouflage that I bought at an unmanned shop around my shoulders. In the event of a crisis, he would immediately lift it up and cover his whole body, because the design of the camouflage membrane changes according to the surrounding environment. It's like a poncho. It's like shit. As the accident led to my military service days, I suddenly remembered the corporal who tormented me. Private? I want to beat that little dog. I'm hungry? Huh. What's a Sibel? Suddenly, a girl appeared nervously screaming and running. It was a husky voice. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Orange ponytail hair. Gold eye. The school uniform is pants. The white shirt was fluttering like a flag because it had been completely unbuttoned. As she ran, she relentlessly swung Lokta, a bat studded with light brown magic stones. By amplifying the power of rock magic, it lightly crushed the monster illusions. It was Rosetta Lionheart, a first-year Class A student at the Faculty of Magic. Rosetta Lionheart, 98. Race, human. Attribute, rock. Risk, X. Psychology. I'm feeling irritable because I'm hungry. Rosetta didn't open the second elemental attribute. It was a choice that came from the will to specialize only in rock magic. By the way, where have you been and now you have crawled out? I remember coming on the same boat as me. What kind of food is all there is weird about? I'm hungry. Presumably, he probably fell asleep while eating something like a cool mushroom. It would be nice to be able to attract Rosetta as a teammate. But the momentum was so great that I didn't have the courage to approach it prematurely. Well, there's no need to flirt with a colleague. In the first place, Rosetta runs in a straight line towards the center. I was smashing all the demonic illusions and enemy workhorses that stood in my way. All I had to do was chase after Rosetta, because the direction is the same. Gee honey. Rosetta bus. Bored. How convenient it is to know the enemies and annihilate them. Move away. You trembles. It was cool and the ride was amazing. Ultramarine darkness came. Fortunately, I was able to follow Rosetta and reach the center of Eld Island, near the volcano. The volcano had an artificially made 3-meter high door. It was the entrance to the volcanic cave. I activated clearly, while keeping the distance from Rosetta as far apart as possible. Because she could sense my magic, I glanced across the street with clearly. Ian and Kaya are currently facing the doorkeeper across the street. The atmosphere was about to enter the battle slowly. The situation was the same here. I unlocked Closer and watched the confrontation between Rosetta and the gatekeeper. Hey, let me ask you something. With Lokta on her shoulders, Rosetta without hesitation asked questions to a beast who was approaching 6 meters tall. The beast was a blue-skinned giant Tsukima with a sharp head and tentacles. Flames flowed from his elbows like sword blades. Behind you, if you open the door, do you have something to eat? Ku. Hey, there is no bastard who can speak. Fire Fist Fire attribute. 3. Rock Collapse Rock attribute. 4. As the gatekeeper fired a large fist wrapped in flames, Rosetta swung Lokta across the magic circle embodied in the air and activated rock magic. 4 large rock pillars rose from the ground, smashing the gatekeeper across the air. Quang! Quang! Ku! Betsa! A pounding sound that was close to a roar followed, one after another. Rosetta applied a series of raging attacks with rock magic. Bang! Quang! Quang! Bang! Bang! Rock collapse! Rock collapse! Rock collapse! The gatekeeper eventually lost his mind and collapsed due to the relentless battering. It's not fun. Bus wins. Applaud. Rosetta clicked her tongue and headed towards the entrance to the volcanic cave. Lisette pushed the door with one hand. The door opened so easily that it was steaming. Rosetta enters the room with a smirk as if it's ridiculous. I'm tired of riding the Rosetta bus. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Isn't this the taste of sucking honey? The final boss is hidden inside the volcanic cave. Let's wait for Rosetta to defeat him. For reference, the volcanic cave is not very deep, as it is a structure that surrounds a volcano. Rosetta would be able to meet the final boss soon. Again, I looked into the situation of Ian and Kaya with clearly. They, too, were about to knock down the gatekeeper just in time. Things were going well. A smile flows out of nowhere. Why are things not working out? It was awkward, for some reason. It seems that there was always something twisted. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwoomtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No, there is nothing strange about it. Even if it comes off as easily as I think sometimes, let's think positively. Nah, today is a lucky day when everything goes well. Let's think so. There was a variable called Rose, but that was good enough. He also gave me real education. I sighed, hiding behind a tree. Holding my breath, time goes by. Looking through, closer, Rosetta went deep into the volcanic cave and succeeded in defeating the final boss, the giant fire lizard. Looking at Ian and Kaya right away, they were just facing the final boss. In the Magic Knight of Marchen Act 4, Chapter 3, Giant in the Ground part, Rosetta did not appear at all. In other words, she most likely exited the volcanic cave after defeating the fire lizard. I can wait until Rosetta comes out. But after looking at the Rosetta side again with closer, I swallowed my breath. A giant fire lizard stunned over it. A girl with orange ponytail hair sitting with her legs spread apart. It looks like he's waiting for someone while patting his shoulder lightly. It was not difficult to guess the situation. I was chasing as far away as possible. But Rosetta seemed to have noticed my pursuit with a wild sense, presuming that I would follow. It was clear that he was waiting. Oh my god. This one is for that little chicken owl. Oddly enough, I was lucky today. A lucky day perished like a dog. The biggest variable got in my way at this critical juncture. At the end of the semester, Luce, Kaya, and Ciel helped me. But now I am alone. Shortly thereafter, a free Elfred appears. In order to be on time, I had to go to where Rosetta was right now. Ian and Kaya will defeat the final boss and he will pop out. If you follow the road well, you will be able to reach Ian and Kaya within 20 minutes. Hey, Tsuba! Taking a deep breath, I unwrapped my clairvoyance and buried my head in the tree. Rosetta has a strong personality. If he faced me, who was chasing after him, he was sure to go into battle. It's absurd for me to beat Rosetta. However, I can't help it. The fate of the world is at stake. This was not the time to cry or cry, only to collide. I walked towards the entrance to the volcanic cave. I opened the volcanic cave door and went inside. Stuffy air. A landscape of a cave with white stripes harmoniously engraved on the ochre wall. Thanks to the luminous lamps installed on the wall, the inside was brightly colored in the middle of the night. As we moved forward, the area of the cave expanded. Shortly thereafter, a spacious space where the final boss of the hunting evaluation appeared was unfolding before my eyes. Are you here? This one is for that little chicken owl. On a stunned fire lizard occupying the middle of space, Rosetta Lionheart smiled and looked down at me. Rosetta Lionheart, psychology. I am wary of you. But you, that extra child? Someone did it. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Rosetta suddenly hardens her expression while smiling. Her rock mana flowed like the wind, sweeping through my body. A sense of intimidation that makes you realize that you are an opponent you can never win. Legetta jumped off the fire lizard and landed on the ground, slapping Locta over her shoulders and tucking her left hand into her pants pocket. Beyond the loose-fitting shirt, a tank top shirt that clings to her body emphasized her body sculpted through exercise. I took the wrong bus. I didn't know this was a bus heading to the cliff. Why did you follow me? Whether answering honestly or pretending to be a lie, the conclusion seemed to be the same. I didn't have to answer. Kaya hum. No response. Then what's your name? And I'm Isaac. I am Rosetta Lionheart. Personally, I was interested in you. Rosetta's unique and lively voice was reminiscent of a brave gladiator in harmony with her usual sense of victory. Cause I was wondering why the chief, the second, and the third are all tied up with an extra bastard like you. Especially the chief. That bitch is so obsessed with you that she loses her mind. Rosetta tilted her head to the side with a smile. Well, that's it. That's the reason, because I can check it out now. And the light brown magic circle of rock magic that develops around Rosetta. Is this the flow? Rosetta is watching me closely. There is tension. Watching her burn her fighting spirit, cold sweat runs down her cheeks. Well, I didn't come here without thinking. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My operation was simple. It was to throw a Jerome mushroom that temporarily twists the mana circuit and watch it. However, the effect of the Jerome mushroom on Rosetta would not be as dramatic as mine, because she is strong. Maybe it's to the extent that the magic activation becomes a little uncomfortable. Still, I had no choice but to try. Read at HTTP. No liminal. Concentrate. I held my breath and deployed a pale blue magic circle to prepare myself for battle. Let's turn our attention to magic. Look at the cracks and shoot Jerome mushrooms. The air sinks heavily. A heavy feeling of intimidation weighs down on my whole body. Yet, done. Suddenly, Rosetta withdrew her magic circle with a bored expression. That amount of power? It was boring and I wanted to die. What the hell? Just looking at it. There's no way those bastards would have been interested in your insignificant fighting skills. Was it any other reason? I was just expecting next time. Bring a colleague. There is no message between you and me. Rosetta scratched my pride. It looked like a cross vein was sprouting from his forehead. Heat spreads. Do you have anything to eat? I'm going to be hungry. Are you there? Why don't you answer me? There is begun, but there's nothing you can do to prevent a bad ending. Rosetta might change her mind, so I have no choice but to crawl. Oh, really? Give it to me. While listening, Rosetta smiled broadly as if it was good news. I sighed. Then, Rosetta said. Did you sigh? And unfolded the magic circle. So she hurriedly took out a package from her arms. Here it is. I commanded the crooked Rosetta a bag. She took the package and inspected the contents. There were 10 Hanseol flowers that I picked up on the way, an edible flower that constantly releases the elemental ice mana. It was pre-cooked by burning a round flower tassel with a 1-star fire magic spellbook purchased from an unmanned shop. Isn't it strange? Eat from you. Rosetta took out a stamen of snowdrops that looked like candy and forcibly put it into my mouth. I can't help it. I chewed on the flower tassels. It was like eating a soft salted radish. It was worth eating. Rosetta also took out the stamen of the snowflower and put it in my mouth with peace of mind. It's not very tasty, but it's edible. That was then. Woo! Suddenly the ground began to shake. Earth and dust dripped from the ceiling, and the luminous lamp fell, and the cave suddenly darkened. Underground giant. It was a precursor to the appearance of the impermanent Elfert. He has manifested. I hurriedly shouted, Rosetta, run away. Huh. Run quickly. You idiot. What? Rosetta's expression was that she couldn't understand English. There was no time to explain. I had to get to Ian quickly. I started running towards the passage inside the cave. If you keep going down this road, you should be able to reach the place where Ian and Kaya are. I looked at the situation with Claire. Ian and Kaya were looking around in confusion. If I use my muscles for 10 minutes and run at full speed, will I be able to reach it in less than 10 minutes? I do not know. Anyway, I had to run with all my might. Hey, what's wrong? In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtl.com. For references, I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No. Rosetta, why are you chasing that bitch? Did you just know what an earthquake is? I told you to run away. Even if you're there, you'll only get in the way. Why do you keep giving orders to weak subjects? You want to die. There was no time to convince Lizetta and send her back. Soon, the giant snout will devour Kaya, and Ian will jump into it. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Me and Rosetta ran toward the place where Ian was. I don't know if that bitch will follow me to the end, but I hope it doesn't. Otherwise, I'll have to show that bitch how I deal with demons. It was extremely rare for the number of people who were not even close to me to know who I was. Come to think of it, he was a kid who didn't listen to orders from guys weaker than him. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My head has been throbbing. Magic Night of Marchen, Act 4. Chapter 3, Giant in the Ground. When Ian and Kaya defeated the final boss of Act 4. Chapter 2, the food chain part. The giant demon manifests itself by replacing the things in the ground with its own body, as if buried alive. The outer skin of the giant is level 190. Let's recall the memories of playing the game. It was like a demon, designed so that it could not be destroyed without unconditionally going inside and fighting. If you go deep inside the giant's body, you can fight the impermanent Elfert body. His level is 145. Read at https Noble Metal. Compared to the first semester, the difficulty level was not that difficult. The pattern was also monotonous. I have to say that it was roughly a Black Kaya build-up feeling, because Hukaya was really damn hard. Well, I'm stronger, so that shouldn't be a problem. This one is for that lil chicken owl, one way or another. If Ian dies, he'll be dumbfounded. This world was no different than the confirmation of a bad ending. Woo! Again the ground shook. I almost fell for a moment. But I quickly regained my focus and continued to run through the eerie darkness of the passage. Is this the second earthquake already? Bye. The second earthquake is a sign that we have entered the part of Act 4. Chapter 3, Giant Under the Ground. By now, the giant's mouth must have pierced the ground and opened wide and swallowed Kaya. For reference, according to the official setting, an underground giant is a deformed shape with a small head and a large body. Of course, no matter how small the head, a giant is a giant. Only the head size will be 5 meters in diameter. Clearance neutral attribute. 7. Clearly, I looked at the situation on the side of Ian and Kaya. Again, there was a huge sinkhole in the ground. Luckily, Ian is out of the sinkhole. It seemed that Kaya had already fallen into that hole. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwumtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now, Kaya resonated with the bloody mana possessed by the impermanent Elfert, and it must have begun to strain her body. Blood boils. Blood flow accelerates. Body temperature rises sharply, and eventually loses consciousness. This is the process of becoming a blood mage who deals with blood magic, and Elfert's minions will kidnap Kaya and command her master. Ian tried to report to the bachelor's department by putting it on the bracelet, but the bracelet didn't work, so he looked embarrassed. It is because of the nature of the magical energy emitted by the outer skin of the giant underground, because he's amazing in terms of his outer skin performance. The entire Elt Island would be in a situation where the communication network was cut off now. In the end, Ian made a sad expression while sweating as if he had made up his mind. No, wait. To let you know that I've been through a lot. Then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My earnest wish could not reach Ian. He bravely fell into the sinkhole, a move like a damn hero, driving me crazy. I ran with all my might. Elfert's minions must be scattered inside the giant's body. Ian couldn't have survived. Hey, aren't you answering? What the hell is this? You shut your mouth. About 10 minutes later, Rosetta and I arrived in front of a huge sinkhole. The red mouth in the hole was caught in the eye. This is the jaws of an underground giant. After a while, the giant would shut his mouth. 10 minutes. Delayed by 10 minutes? Hurry up and chase after Ian. I didn't even have time to wear the camouflage clothes I bought at the unmanned shop, combined with the camouflage membrane. It was a garment that could completely hide its identity. Rosetta was panting as if she was about to die. It looked like it was too much to keep up with my speed. Hey, kid. No kidding? It's fast. I ignored Rosetta's sentiments and jumped straight into the giant's mouth. Riding on what was supposed to be the tongue, my body began to slide down like a slide. The passageway that follows, maybe the throat. The squishy feel was very unpleasant, if I had to name it. The amylase water slide. Thankfully, the camouflage of the Pancha Wu was cloaked, so my butt didn't touch the filthy amylase of the giant. For a while, the esophagus yielded itself to gravity, and as it descended deeper inward, the incline began to soften. It was because the giant was lying on the ground with only his head sticking out like a tortoise. Before long, I passed the esophagus, landing lightly. My feet touched the flat red ground. Feet fit like a mat, even with the shoes on. I felt an unpleasant sensation. A wriggling red wall, the interior of the giant. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Mana shining red like a firefly was floating around in the air. The color was beautiful. The shape of Mana shining like jewels, painted like incontinence here and there on the wall. In Magical Night of Marchen, the inside of the body of an underground giant had a feeling of being the right mix of beauty and grotesqueness. Perhaps the reality was alive, and the eerie beauty was felt more clearly. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwumtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Note that underground giants do not have camouflage. So, what exactly is this giant? By analogy, the underground giant acts like a giant robot, and the free Elfert acts like a pilot. However, this giant itself was also Elfert's body. It's the body of this giant. For me, the conditions for Destroyer were met in all directions. However, if there is a riot inside, a shield is put on the impermanent Elfert. It's like a defense mechanism. Each time the protective shield is applied one layer at a time, the gnome's defense power increases rapidly. In other words, using Frostfire, which has a wide attack area, or throwing any magic all over the place was nothing but an act of hastening the bad ending. Anyway, I came in. It took a while, but I managed to get into the giant's body. Hurry up! I had to chase after Ian. The moment I was thinking about moving my feet. Dirty! A roaring voice begins to reverberate from the back of the esophagus. Coo! Rosetta's body slid out and slammed into mine like a bowling ball slammed myself into the pin. I felt pain and floating, and for a moment I clashed with Rosetta. We rolled together on the soft red ground, groaning and tossing and turning. For a moment, I thought my back was going to break. The dog hurts? Where are you? Rosetta suddenly looked up at the red ceiling and was terrified. Then, he raises his upper body. Ha! Really? In the end, I chased after him. I let out an annoyed sigh and got up from my seat and started running into the room. You bastard! Where else are you going? Rosetta shouted threateningly and followed me. I thought so too. As I ran, a large space greeted me. A large amount of red mana grains are floating around inside the body. Red flesh that stretches like gum and connects the ceiling and the ground. A road that diverges into several branches. Where are you? Ian. I activated Clearly Eye and looked around quickly. Found. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Oh, Jesus. Surprisingly, Ian was making a save. The situation where he managed to defeat Elfert's minions with the light attribute sword. The weakness of the demons. That's it. Minai. You are growing too? Ian. I breathed a deep sigh of relief. No. But eventually, Ian was distracted by the magic of Elfert's minions and passed out with blood pouring from his head. Fucked. Yeah. Rosetta is still chasing after me. Still, I'm glad the magic didn't stop me. When I read the psychology with psychological insight, it seemed that I instinctively recognized that I knew the truth of the situation and was acting. Was not brainless. To let you know that I've been through a lot. Then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Me and Rosetta quickly reached the space where Ian was. An image of Ian feigning, leaning against a wall made of giant flesh. It's not too late. The main character. I'm glad you're safe. I thought my heart was going to fall. Boo hung. Boom. In front of Ian. A demon of a bizarre form was humming and stepping on the steps. A slender, elongated pink elephant walking on two legs. He appeared to be about 3 meters tall. Her dark pink-skinned head was sprinkled with red mana dust like a geyser. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Mouth torn to the ears, a smile like a clown. Boof! Nah. Elephant demons turning their heads towards me, and Rosetta. The black and large eyes that reminded me of an alien were enough to give me goosebumps. Fall. LV 90. Race. Demon. Attributes. Dark. Fire. Blood. Risk. High. Psychology. I want to dance with your guts. Servant of Elfert. Fall. Here. It was the elephant demon, which was swarming with the body of an underground giant. The gnome was sobbing and performing a bizarre dance. His thick feet, which contrasted with his slender body. Wobbled like earthworms? Dance. Buahuk. Anna asked in a dull voice. It was a suggestion that I would not try dancing a song. In case you have any questions, you can refer to omtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Note that this is not a suggestion for me. The person he spoke to was my gut. He's going to take out my internal organs and dance with them wrapped around his body. What? Seeing the bizarre form, Rosetta shook her head. It seemed that his head could not keep up with the situation he could not understand. Jang, a bloody magic circle that spreads in the air with a squeaking sound. The magic of falling has targeted us. In an instant, the magic that flowed out of him passed through my skin. Stroking my skin? Hey, stay away. This is not an elephant you can deal with. Rosetta seemed to have guessed that falling was dangerous. Rosetta, who holds Lukta with both hands, a magic weapon in the form of a bat imbued with mana stones. As she tried to step in front of me, I reached out and stopped her. What are you? I was determined to quickly defeat Elfert, save Kaya, and get out of here. It would only be a stumbling block if Rosetta came forward. Recognized as an enemy. Unique trait Destroyer is activated. Levels and stats temporarily increase significantly. The skill tree temporarily becomes plus 10. The body becomes as light as a feather. The mana surges so much that it can lightly pour large-scale magic at any time. First, I had to find Ian and rectify the situation. Let's think about what to do with the storm after being discovered by Rosetta. I stretched out my right arm toward the fall and spread a light blue magic circle in the air. It was the law of Ice Spear. I created an ice spear of an appropriate size. However, it contained rich mana extremely densely. High-density light blue mana swirling around the ice spear as the center point, aiming for 1 point. The moment the fall wields his elongated nose and tries to cast magic, I shot Ice Spear, Ice Attribute. 4. Pesu Woo Woo. Hua Than Not. Boo. It was an instant. Ice Spear pierced the fall like a bullet through the air in an instant. The place where Ice Spear passed, after images of the cold are engraved in the air in the form of flames. The wind pressure spread later, as if through a cannon rather than a spear. The fall's upper body was empty. In the end, he fell to the floor helplessly. A rattling, squeaking sound echoed through the space. Shell above, dance. Soon, the fall made a faint voice and disappeared as gray powder. Destroyer has been released. My body got heavy again. The concentration of magic power also decreased sharply. It's a new thing. But every time Destroyer is released, I can't get used to it. Just magic. What happened? At first, Rosetta's voice trembled. He turned his gaze to Rosetta. She is staring at me with a look of disbelief. Rosetta Lionheart? Psychology. I feel your magical power and I am confused. It was the expected reaction. It's getting cold now. This one is for that little chicken owl. Once you enter the body of a giant, you cannot get out of it until you defeat the impermanent Elfert. Falls range from a minimum of 85 to a maximum of 100. I don't know where or how they'll come out, so this place wasn't a safe place anywhere. Even if it was a level 98 Reheta, there was a great risk of death if she continued to fight enemies of a similar level. In other words, it was safest for her to stay by my side. Rosetta. What? Don't get away from me. If you don't want to die. Rosetta's exciting appearance disappeared. He seems to be completely wary while holding on to the tension. You don't even answer, people are ugly. Eden. I summoned Eden, the little golem workhorse. Put him up. I will move. Eden raised his right arm and answered, Kuwung, and started to grow in size. The rocks created in the air clinged to Eden's body. Eden became a 2-man-tall golem and began to shed a masculine voice. Guwook. Gook. Eden lifted Ian, who had fainted, into the princess's arms. As it was, I started moving with Eden. Hey, for a moment. Explain, you bastard. What are you? Rosetta followed me. Her interrogation continued for a while, but I couldn't think of a proper answer, so I remained silent from start to finish. Eventually, we came to a large square where the bones of the giant formed the ground. It was a place where the experience points could be held before reaching the free Elfert. Rosetta frowned at the sight unfolding before her eyes. Lupus elephants were swaying with excitement. They were demons with a dark pink or red body, ripped corners of the mouth up to the ears. They hummed their hum with bizarre smiles. A drummer elephant rhythmically beating a drum made of flesh with its long nose. Guitarist elephant taps a guitar made of magic and bone fragments. Singer elephant who sings in a strange, unknown language. An elephant choir arranged in a row and chorus or chorus. It was dissonant though. The elephant demons seemed to be very excited about the strange music, so they were dancing. Boo. The elephant demon, the fallen group, noticed our approach and stopped. They're big, round. Black eyes turn to us all at once. The music stops. Dance. Book. Bala. The elephant at the forefront suggested it to me. After a moment of silence, the rest of the elephants burst into laughter with their torn mouth. Bugyakyai. Boogie. Boo. Koitsu. Bangyagaalgyak. Bugyakyagyakyagyak. Puhak. Buggy. An elephant that grabs the boat and rolls around on the floor, chattering. An elephant applauding happily with its thick feet. They giggled and laughed, showing their teethless black mouths. Shall we try Eden here? Eden. Put Ian down. This one is for that little chicken owl, ordered Eden. The guy answered Goowook and laid Ian on the floor. This is a music square in Magical Night of Marchin. It was okay to run wildly as much as you wanted in this place, because the bones that make up the ground soften the shock delivered to the giant's body. Goowook. As soon as Destroyer was activated, a high-density stone mana flowed to Eden. Eden is surprised. Eden's body started to grow bigger and bigger. Flat rocks were continuously created in the air and stuck to his body layer by layer. When Eden became a hard-looking former golem, her eyes lit up with sharp eyes. It was Eden's interpersonal form change. Eden. LV. Race. Beast. Attribute. Rock. Risk. X. Psychology. I am amazed because I am overflowing with energy. Destroy it. Gua. Eden roaring. The guy jumped straight ahead. The wind pressure is as fast as that. His huge rock fist pierced a fall. Whoops. A sound close to an explosion resounded, and the body of the fall ran wildly through the air. Its body stopped flying only after it collided with a huge piece of bone sticking out. The man died instantly with blood clots. The bewildered falls belatedly developed a bloody magic circle and poured out. Magic made of red blood. Eden, who has a solid body, couldn't even scratch it. Goo! Eden popped up. A large number of yellow rocks appeared in the air, and they stuck to his fists like magnets, as it is. Eden slammed the ground with his fists of rocks that were dozens of times bigger. The bones that made up the ground were shattered, and every fall was crushed to death. Conquest. It was overwhelming power. Big. Is that the little golem Eden I knew? My heart is enlarged. Ouch. Kaya. I have to save Kaya. At that moment, Ian, who was lying on the ground, regained consciousness. Let him raise his upper body slowly, grabbing his head as he makes a grunt. I quickly lifted the camouflage that was draped over my shoulders to cover my head. Whoops. Whoops. At that time, a blunt piece of bone flew in a parabola and hit Ian's head directly. It was because of Eden's attack. The bones that made up the ground were smashed and shattered into pieces. Ian let out a shriek and fainted, lying on his back again. Fresh blood dripped down the spot where the bones collided. It was an odd situation, but it seemed that there was no need to cover the head with a camouflage film. Pug medicine? May. The group of falls, whose bodies had exploded to such an extent that they could not be recognized, disappeared as gray powder with a peculiar moan. I found you. Chin on the ground. Eden landing. The rocks that had covered his body suddenly turned into light brown powder and disappeared. Eden's body was reduced to a level of 2 meters as before the battle began. Gawook. Gook. Ba. Eden. Psychology. I'm surprised that I've gotten stronger for a while. Genau. For now, level 130 is the limit. As you gradually increase your rank and become stronger, one day, you will become in existence no less than a high-level ministry. Level up. 12 has risen to 69. Hey. Acquire stat 2. Level went up, yes. Let's go. Eden, please listen to me again. Goowook. Bet. I retraced my steps again. Eden ran quickly, lifted Ian back into the princess's arm, and followed me with Rosetta. By the way, when was it? Lizette is so quiet. Rosetta Lionheart. Psychology. I have feelings of inferiority, skepticism, and fear from you. The reason was obvious. I just decided to ignore it. After passing through an open door the size of a door, an excessively wide dome-shaped space appeared and overwhelmed Rosetta. It had reached the convex abdomen of an underground giant. No. When Rosetta, greatly startled, tried to shout, I hurriedly shut her mouth. Quietly, Rosetta nodded and I let go. Again, we started moving our feet. The mana that was scattering bright blood served as a light. A wall dripping with blood. A deformed ceiling glowing ruby color around the dull-colored ribs. Below, there was pitch black over the cliff. The fleshy legs continued in a straight line all the way to the center of the space. At its tip stood the torso of a huge red elephant with a head shaped like a tofu. It was a free Elfert body. What? Big. Why? The man was drooping, with his head bowed without energy, like a corpse. This one is for that little chicken owl. Originally, he should have greeted us with a lively dance by now. Right? And that was then? Shit. In the middle of the giant elephant's head, someone raised his upper body to reveal himself. Her long hair and a white school uniform shirt were stained bright red with Elfert's blood. Blood dripping down the pale skin. She mumbled something, swallowed, and wiped the blood from her lips. A cold red eye that was different from the usual emerald-colored eyes returned to us. Dead eyes, not at all lively. Soon, as soon as she saw it, her cheeks blushed, and she started to shed a strange smile. Isn't that the car seat? Rosetta's vigilant voice. A girl with light green hair was looking down at us from the head of a giant elephant demon. She was a blood mage and a boss who awakened as a demon. Kaya Astrayang. Kaya the Evil. LV. Waxy. Race. Demon. Attributes. Wind. Ice. Plants. Blood. Risk. Best. Psychology. I want you to stop the uncontrollable murder. B. Why is Kaya already out? Even the level was 10 times higher than the previous scenario. I was perplexed for a moment, but I quickly grabbed my reason and thought quickly. Magic Night of Marchin, the hidden boss of Act 4. Chapter 3. Underground Giant Part. The Evil Kaya. Immediately after the player defeated the impermanent Elfert, it broke through the Corion, made of bloody mana, and emerged from the swirling waters of blood. For a blood wizard, It was an incomplete awakening. Then, the impermanent Elfert gave up his elephant body and all functions, including intelligence, and became a parasite that took Kaya as a host. All that is left is the instinct like murder. But now Kaya seems to have succeeded in waking up early. So, it seems that Elfert was transformed into a parasite and passed on to Kaya. It's hard to see from here, but there must be something resembling a red earring on Kaya's right earlobe. That was the impermanent Elfert that had been transferred to Kaya. As long as he exists, Kaya can't suppress his murderous intentions towards humans. He had no choice but to move according to Elfert's will. Even that smile right now must have come from Elfert's bliss that he could eat humans. I still have a long way to go to become a complete demon. According to Gravity, the bad ending that is met when defeated by the evil Kaya. Kaya will become a complete demon after half a day. There was still time to go back. The reason Kaya is 10 levels higher than the original scenario is probably because she has awakened as a blood mage. For reference, there are side effects to mana with the blood attribute. It is harmless to the body, but when this part is over, Kaya will have to live with the side effects. In Marchand's Magical Night, it was a side effect that served as a charm point for Kaya. By the way, why did Kaya awaken as a blood mage so quickly? I guess it's because I'm sensitive to plant mana sooner than expected. In Magical Night of Marchand, Imperfect Elfert knew that plant mana and blood mana were well combined, so it was meant to rule Kaya. However, at that time, Kaya was unable to use plant magic, so, as a blood mage, I had an incomplete awakening. This one is for that lil chicken owl. On the other hand, the current Kaya was fully responsive to plant mana and was able to use plant magic. It must have been that the plant mana had melted the blood mana at once. It was unexpected for me. However, it was clear that there was no problem in saving Kaya, because the fact that I'm stronger doesn't change when Kaya is fatally wounded. Elfert protects her to survive and flees in a weakened state. If you aim for that time and kill it, Kaya will return as a human. Generate win-win attribute. 1 plus Flower of Evil Blood attribute. 6 Blood win-win plus blood attribute. A vicious Kaya who escapes from Elfert with a red-green wind wrapped around her body. The strong wind blew away the blood from her body like air pressure. But she couldn't do anything about the school uniform that was already wet red. Kaya looked down at me in the storm that dominated the space. A red floral tattoo that ran down her neck and up to her right cheek was reflected in her eyes. It was a Flower of Evil that appears whenever you activate the blood attribute mana. Her lips twisted. It looked like a smile, like a cry, and it was an expression of unknown emotion. However, as much as the cold red eye light was pointing straight towards me, Ice Shield Ice attribute. 6. I put a layer of ice on Rosetta, Ian, and Eden, which neutralizes my ice magic. Are you going to fight? I nodded my head at Rosetta's question. Recognized as an enemy. Unique trait Destroyer is activated. Levels and stats temporarily increase significantly. The skill tree temporarily becomes Paul 10. When he was prepared to fight the evil Kaya, his unique trait Destroyer was activated. I poured rock mana on Eden again, then gave the order. Eden, please protect Rosetta and Ian. Guruk. Eden nodded as if to leave it to him. Eden would prevent the aftermath of the fight between me and Kaya from reaching Rosetta and Ian. The evil Kaya flies around with a large amount of mana, always wrapped in the wind. I remember how troublesome it was because Ian couldn't fly in the sky in Marchand's Magical Night. This one is for that lil chicken owl. On the other hand, now I can do dogfights. Besides, if Rosetta and Ian stay together on this narrow bridge, they will also become targets for Kaya. I bent my knees and jumped like a spring toward the ceiling. Whoa! Whoa! Through the red-green wind, he reached a height where he could jump over even a high-rise building. Are you human? Rosetta shouted, but just ignored it. Come on. Hilt. He stretched his left arm forward and activated the 8-star Fumigator summoning team. A pale blue summoning circle was engraved on the left wrist. Then, pure white Jadeite man was condensed in the air and changed into the body of a giant white dragon. Ka. Ice and Snow Dragon, healed. Elv 1E. Race. Beast. Attribute. Ice. Risk. X. Psychology. I am delighted at the thought of fighting with you. A roaring 8-star beast. Ice and Snow Dragon, healed. I got on the white dragon's back. Why did you do that? Really? The expansive vegetation located in the Duchy of Astrains boasts a view that cannot be taken away from the eyes, as if carved with watercolors, because the mana of Sylphia, a fairy of green and blue, is flowing softly. The wide paved road that you can go ahead while admiring the panoramic view stretches out without any obstruction. This is also the reason why the Duchy of Astrains is called a trading hub. When it's summer vacation, Kaya Astrian returned home to the Astriani mansion. Unlike when I left for Marchand Academy with equal momentum, returning to the mansion, Kaya surprised the users with her exhausted appearance. It was because he thought about his mistakes in the moving wagon. For a while, Kaya had no appetite, so she almost skipped meals. It was sloppy when walking. Every night, he buried his face in the pillow on the bed and let out a deep sigh. I couldn't help it. I'm going back during the school vacation. You couldn't control your emotions and rushed out and kissed Isaac Sama on the cheek. Wouldn't that put pressure on him? would have given, I'm sure it was, since that day. How many times have you repeated the phrase, "Why the hell did you do that?" For a few days, I hope you're choking in the swamp of regrets. I couldn't even put my worries into words. If the fact that Kaya is in love with someone spreads throughout the mansion, it was clear that her father, Gerald Estreen, would be furious. He has a savvy and conservative mindset. It was a situation in which Kaya declared that it was forbidden to even have a romantic relationship, let alone dating, until she later graduated from the academy and met a person worthy of the status of a duke, Sylphia, a fairy from Huarokchang, a friend with whom I can easily confide in my worries. Somehow hadn't appeared even after going to the forest. Kaya was going crazy. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtel.com. For references, I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Night. Time to sleep. In the dark room, Kaya was tossing and turning on the bed. Kaya cried while embracing Armana's wand, the magic weapon that Isaac had given her during the evaluation at the end of the semester. It was a pattern that I repeated every time I lay in bed for several days before going to sleep. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Of course, there were not only regretful memories of the day of the vacation. The moonlight was seeping through the window. Kaya turned her head and looked out the window. Bright, crescent moon. Even on the day I went to the Marchand Academy site, the Tantak underground cave, a crescent moon was hanging in the sky. It was a very impressive day for Kaya. Enough to remember the shape of the moon. It was when I was camping with Isaac. Maybe it was because I was so nervous that my heart exploded that day. And I still remember vividly. You covered your blanket. He also said it was pretty. The smooth feel of the wand in his arms brought back memories of the end of the semester evaluation. You said firmly that you were the person I recognize. He won't know how happy he is every time he meditates on that single word. I miss you. Isaac. I feel it all over again. All of a sudden, the existence of Isaac seemed to seep into Kaya like the moonlight. Master, that child, isn't that Kaya? What you've been talking about? Bah. Don't look. When Ice and Snow Dragonhild asked a question, he answered calmly, throwing off the impediment of camouflage. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No matter how twisted the scenario was, the only way to save Kaya in the end was to defeat her. Immortal Elfert, who became a parasite in the form of an earring, shares blood with Kaya. Parasites have the highest elemental resistance, just like a giant's outer skin twists external magic. Elfert also had the power to neutralize at least one magic. In other words, if you inflict fatal wounds on Kaya and Elfert at the same time, Elfert will unconditionally withstand my attacks and do everything in his power to restore her. The host. This is because there is no adequate vessel, and sharing blood with a corpse in the first place leads to death. After that, he was going to run away with an incapacitated body for 10 minutes. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, I had no intention of giving him time to escape. The Ice and Snow Dragon flew around the inside of the body of an overly wide giant with the huge red elephant as the centerpiece. Center. Kaya Estrella, who was floating in the air with a red-green wind, reached out toward me. Kaya regained her appetite with an excited face. I looked delicious. I've grown quite a bit of muscle, so it'd be light, but I didn't want to eat it. Then, a group of magic circles carved into the air. Green and blood are in harmony. There were enough 8 behind her. Disgusting chunks of flesh rose like tentacles, tangled up, and became the shape of a blood-red tree trunk. The leaves made up of human body organs were in full bloom. What was born was a grotesque tree that gave off a brilliant blood. Tree of brilliance, plant attribute. 7+ flower of evil blood attribute. 6 tree of fresh blood plant blood attribute. I remember seeing the magic of combining plant and blood attributes with interest in the setting book. It's a magic that doesn't appear in the game anyway, so I thought it would be released as a DLC later. The tree provides blood and flesh to allies, allowing for rapid and dramatic recovery. Higher compatibility of Brilliant Tree. It was explicitly mentioned as a balance-breaking skill. Even in the Act 4, Chapter 3, Underground, Giant Part, if Kaya had that tree up, there would be no way to defeat her. The only strategy is to lose the function of that tree with a single attack. Blur look. Brew look. Bro look. Pookie. Boogia juk juk juk. Pugia. The walls made of giant flesh began to immediately manufacture and send out winged, bright red elephant demons. Each of them was nothing less than Elfert's body organs. A swarm of ants, like an army of ants. Each of them had an all-spear made of bone fragments in their hands. They flew towards me, screaming strangely in their water-filled voices. The Ice and Snow Dragon stopped traversing the air, flapped its wings and stared at Kaya. Whenever the White Dragon's gigantic wings flew through the air, pure white cold mana sparkled and scattered. Serenut. I stretched out my right arm to the side and sensibly took out the Frost Scythe, light blue mana that gathers in the air. It took the form of an ultramarine blue scythe with cold air. It was a Serenut. As I gripped the frosty scythe, additional ice mana flowed into me as if opening an energy tank. Situation. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Name: Isaac. LV 169. Gender: male. Grade 1. Title: first year adapting to undergraduate life. Horsepower, 15,500 of 119,000 plus 25,000. Magical recovery speed S. Every time Ice and Snow Dragon Hild uses magic, the mana used to sustain the summons will be eroded a lot. However, the large amount of bonus mana provided by the Frost Scythe is consumed first, so there will be no damage to me. Remove them all. I gave the command, pointing at Kaya with the head of the Frostbite. A magnificent pale blue magic circle drew a trajectory over my head. It was the magic circle that Ice and Snow Dragon Hild developed. A dazzling brilliance shines. Ice and Snow Dragon's mana spreads heavily as if it will crush everything soon. The magic circles that Kaya had deployed came out and spewed out their magic all at once towards the Ice and Snow Dragon. Song of the Goat Wind attribute. 7 is Blood attribute. 5. Baphomet's Song Wind plus Blood. A red-green typhoon strikes as sharp as thousands of sharp blades. A wind chime that flies without identifying the victim. The whole body of the Elephant Demon Legion, touched by the wind, became an egg without hesitation. This one is for that lil chicken owl, one of Kaya's official patterns of evil. Baphomet's Song. The wind was a magic that gradually increased its power by taking the blood of the mangled creature. Ka! Against him. Ice and Snow Dragon Hild roared fiercely. Ice magic was emitted from the magic circle. Mahabal special ice attribute. 8. In an instant, a silvery solid line was drawn in the air. Ah! With the roar, the solid line became a huge beam of light, pouring out extreme cold. Mahabal, special horse, devoured Baphomet's Song and annihilated the elephant demon army that came into contact with it at once. A world colored with white jade, a rhomboid ridge painted in pure white. For a fleeting moment, even time seemed to freeze. I blinked my eyes quietly and quietly. An army of demonic elephants, whose whole body was frozen by the extreme cold, caught my eye. They were the ones who did not directly touch the Ice and Snow Dragon's cold rays. This was no luck. Twisty by. Damn it. The cold air of the Ice and Snow Dragon, which has dug into the bodies of the elephant demons, rages violently. Soon, like a flower bud in full bloom, their skin began to tear in all directions. Whoops whoops. A terrifying crimson landscape amidst the rushing white cold. Mahabal Special. The name of hell that freezes the body in extreme cold and bursts to make it look like a red lotus flower. As the name suggests, all the things that were rushing towards me turned into red flowers that fell into pitch black over the cliff. After Tree of Precious Blood protects Kaya with all her might with a lump of flesh, in the cold wind of the Ice and Snow Dragon that stirs wildly inside, the stem splits into several branches, and it disappears into ruby-colored powder. It was a futile end. Hey, what is this? Rosetta, who was protected by my freeze shield, exclaimed with a trembling voice, perhaps because of the giant's blood flow. The surrounding landscape regains its warmth and turns red again. Kaya's hardened face. She started flying sideways. This one is for that little chicken owl. One after another, a large amount of red flies began to bloom from the wall made of giant flesh. The fly hell's mouth was lined with white teeth evenly. Gluttony grass plant attribute. Stunning vampire blood attribute. Splinter of iron. Slaughtering grass plant blood attribute. Kiki BF Big Bang. Kiki BF Big Bang. The forces of fly hell. Slaughter grass. Shed eerie laughter with the voice of a child. A magic that absorbs my blood inside my body. I felt the trajectory of the blood flow twisting. If I stand still, the blood flowing through my body will pierce my skin and float in the air, becoming food for killing grass. With that number, not a drop of my blood would be left behind. That didn't end there. A huge and bizarre flower bloomed wide enough to fill one wall. The brightly colored blood flow was clearly visible in the petals resembling clock flowers. At the center of the flower, the round mouth opened wide. Its spacious interior was full of sharp thorns, like a snail's mouth. This was a passageway leading to the depths of another dimension. A gigantic flower with a gigantic mouth. It was Apocalypse. Flower of Evil Plant attribute. 8 plus Flower of Evil Blood attribute. 6. Apocalypse Plant Blood attribute. Apocalypse. There was a setting that no living creatures could survive in the place where the flower bloomed, and the area around it would surely perish. With her back to the flower of destruction, Kaya, floating in the air, stared at me. After being attacked by Ice and Snow Dragon Hild, it seemed that she was determined to immediately pour out all her energy. Hild, run! I get it. But, Ice and Snow Dragon Hild started flying towards Kaya. The glory of the Frost Lord Ice attribute. 7. A pale blue light shone brightly from my body. A magic that repels all magic that has come upon me. Glory of the Frost Lord. Slaughtering grass, stopped laughing. Each of them rotting and rotting, pouring out large amounts of blood from their mouths. Eventually, the brilliance that emanated from me faded. The hordes of slaughter grass withered helplessly and quietly bowed their heads. Soon, the Apocalypse unfolded a magic circle that harmonized with bright colors and vivid blood toward me. It didn't even come into view at once, so I couldn't even estimate its size. Kaya, please. As I was traversing the air, I kicked the ice dragon's back and leapt upwards. It was to properly wield the frost scythe. The hem of the school uniform flaps quickly, feeling the fullness of floating. He grabbed the frost scythe with both hands. The pale blue mana that soaked into the frost scythe rose like a flame. as he swung the scythe horizontally as it was. A light blue solid line was drawn on Kaya's stomach and the body of Apocalypse following him. And the solid line sharply opened and swallowed everything the frostbite had cut. Absolute 0 ice attribute. 7. Frosty Scythe's unique active skill. Absolute 0. It was a magic that cut everything along the path drawn by the sickle without any restrictions on space, and froze it with extreme cold. Apocalypse, and the flesh of the giant that made up the wall are frozen and split in half, due to the coldness of the frost scythe that had dug deep. Even the cuts on the scythe were frozen solidly. Suddenly, brightly colored blood gushed out of Kaya's earlobe and surrounded her whole body. The blood that restored Kaya, who was in danger of dying at once, came together and became a small elephant. In order to escape, it kicks off Kaya's body and leaps towards the wall. I open the status window to confirm the identity of the little elephant. Free Elfert. Elve. Property 5. Race. Demon. Attributes. Dark. Fire. Blood. Risk. X. Psychology. I want to live. Yeah. No. Ice generation. Ice attribute. 1. After I created an iceberg in the air big enough to take my leap, it sprinted through the air like a bullet towards the red elephant. The impermanent Elfert. Quang! As the ice mass was spurred, the wind pressure rose, and the sound of firing cannons resounded. The frost scythe turned into pale blue powder and disappeared because I put it in instead. Ice mana was condensing into a high density in my hand. Puke. When he reached the impermanent Elfert, who quickly floated in the air and ran away, I burst into concentrated mana towards him. Ice explosion, ice attribute. 5. The ice exploded and engulfed Elfert. The one who weakened as he weakened while protecting Kaya to survive, was shattered into pieces by the shock of a momentary explosion. It looked like it had been trapped in a huge ice mass formed in an instant. Kaya lost consciousness and began to fall. Ice and snow, Dragonhild flew in quickly and snatched her with her mouth, then returned to me and put me on my back. Finally, the ice and snow dragon went to the flesh bridge and put Kaya down. I also got down on the guy's back. Perfect landing. Woo! A giant ice mass falling overpoweringly. I gently held out my hand towards the ice ingot. Shararaluk. Freeze off. The huge ice mass disappeared as light blue powder at once. Pukiak. The impermanent Elfert, who was bleeding profusely, let out a pathetic cry, and then turned to gray powder and scattered. Congratulations. You have defeated Free Elfert Lav 125 and gained experience. Level up. Elf has risen to 72. Acquire stat 6. You have achieved the achievement Shall We Dance. And you get an additional 10 bonus stats. When Destroyer was released, his body suddenly became heavy. The joy of the reward was to be enjoyed later. The loot is left with Kaya, so you can check it later as well. I quickly started putting Kaya on my back. Hey, we won? It was a pleasure to fight together. Lord, Ice and Snow Dragonhild, which consumes a lot of mana to maintain the summon, was immediately reverse summoned. The guy blurted out the end of his words with a bewildered voice saying, Juying, and disappeared as light blue mana. I'm sorry. Hild, blame the weak master. I started running while carrying Kaya. I hurriedly shouted at Rosetta, who had been raving about admiration all day. Rosetta, run away. What? Woo! The earthquake started. Lizette was astonished. If you defeat the immortal Elfert, the giant's body also becomes gray powder from the center and begins to slowly decay. In the sight of the collapse, things that were originally there, such as soil and seawater, begin to return to the place where the giant was. If you touch it, it will lead to the bad ending buried live. In other words, it had to run at full speed to the mouth of the giant. This was the last mission of the Act 4, Chapter 3, Giant Underground Part. A strange blood-red mana rose from the center. That mana was turned into a cross-section of a large amount of sand and ground. Blood-colored mana that gradually spreads, as if it is suffocating your breath. Hey, Sibel. In fact, I was scared of dogs. Jump. I let out a scream close to screaming. Eden, who was holding the fainted Ian, and Rosetta ran with all his might. What else? It's collapsing. Why? Because the body is gone. Was that elephant the main body? I took the lead and ran. As I continued to explore the road that returned to Closer, I was able to move forward without blockage, even if my head was dizzy. If I looked back, even for a moment, I could see the bloody mana chasing us with a terrifying force like a tsunami. If you touch it, you will follow. Kaya had passed out and was drooping on my back, bloody and visceral odor. The characteristic subtle body odor from Kaya had disappeared. But what are you just running for? You can carry it on your golem. It was so big and fast. Don't you have any ideas? I managed to resist the urge to hold up my middle finger. It was impossible to leave Kaya to Eden, who was running with Ian. Of course, he also has stamina. At least that's how fast it got as I leveled up. Eden seemed to be struggling. Perhaps because I had drained a lot of high-density rock mana twice, if I left Kaya alone, it would probably slow down my running speed. In the first place, you are not a human spec. Noisy. Then you summon a samurai. It didn't help that I lost, so I sat down with a question. You've said it all. Rosetta looked down at me in anger and kept her mouth shut. Rosetta Lionheart. Psychology. I'm afraid of you. Rosetta is a woman whose spirit of victory burns when she meets a strong opponent. The reason that she was instinctively afraid of me was because she felt the overwhelming force of power. Illness, Rosetta summoned Jeff, a male lion clad in rock armor. Huh. You're going to make me drenched in the scent of a new battle. Host. As soon as he is summoned, Jeff shouts with a brave voice. Hearing a roar, he said, and turned around. He screamed in surprise that his eyeballs popped out. Keek. What kind of situation is this? Shut up and get in the car seat. Seriously. It's noisy with both the master and the working man. Still, Rosetta was a wise guy. Seeing you try to take Kaya, I have to take the lead and run. No matter how much Nara was running at full speed with Kaya on her back, the speed would inevitably slow down. It was clear that Rosetta had figured it out. I barely moved Kaya, who was on my back, onto Jeff's. Because of the process, I stopped for about 2 seconds. But fortunately, I still had a few seconds to spare because I ran before the giant's body collapsed. Ice Generation Ice Attribute 1. Immediately after ice freezing Jeff's back and Kaya, we started running. My body became lighter, Rosetta admiring me. You find a way. It seemed that she was unaware of the existence of Clarion. Before long, we reached the giant's esophagus. Rock Creation Rock Attribute 1. It created a rocky staircase going up the wide esophagus. We didn't reach the end, but it didn't matter because we were going to continue the rock stairs and turn with Rosetta. We started jumping up the rock stairs. Wow. Uh-oh. You don't have that much strength in your legs. Don't fall if you don't want to die. Is that what you want? Bastard. After grabbing and pulling Rosetta's wrist as she was about to fall due to the earthquake, read at Noblemel. Calm. She released her wrist and continued up her esophagus. From the bottom of the esophagus, the cross sections of the ground piled up layer by layer. It had the momentum to bury us alive. Little bit more. Almost done. Wow. Finally. We managed to get over our throats and into our mouths. He made a rocky ground in his mouth and stepped on it. The smell of a giant's mouth. To the slimy amylase, it was a completely eerie space. The ceiling, a tightly closed tooth ceiling. I could tell because red blood mana was flowing around it, acting as a light. Well, it didn't matter. It's safe here. It's okay. What's okay? A bloody tsunami, which was gradually changing into a ground form, was just around the corner. Rosetta screamed in surprise and covered her face with her arm. Blood mana finally covered the giant's mouth and disappeared as a powder. In the place where the giant's mouth was, only a huge sinkhole was left. This place was pierced in the process of sticking out his head after the giant appeared, so it was not replaced by ground. A feeling of wealth that came suddenly. My feet were in the middle of a pit filled with darkness. We started falling all at once. As I recall, this pit wasn't very deep. Of course, if you fall, you will die instantly. It's not very high, so make a rock quickly. What? Rosetta used Create Rock to create a tall rock. Drooling. The landing point was higher than expected. Thanks to this, we were able to land on the rock created by Rosetta without any problems. Haha! I almost fell behind. Rosetta is relieved as she sits on a rock. It is sympathetic I almost fell behind. Finished. I was also deeply relieved and sat down like her. The male lion samurai, Jeff said. My samurai, this was the first time such a crisis has happened, he exclaimed. So, for a while, we gasped for our emotions as we breathed heavily. Are Kaya and Ian okay? As soon as his breathing calmed down, he turned his gaze to the male lion Sochima. Jeff. I looked at Kaya, who was on her back. The world is sleeping comfortably. Kaya Estrian. 40. Race. Human. Attributes. Wind. Ice. Plants. Blood. Risk. X. Psychology. The flower of evil that had climbed up his neck and up to his cheeks had disappeared. I'm glad it's okay. But... Temporary level 140. Side effects of the Blood Wizard. There is a setting that the blood attribute creates a new personality. This means that the personality of Kaya of Evil, who deals with blood magic, remains in Kaya now. The temporary level 140 is probably because the status window measured that Kaya, who became a human, was at that level. It was 10 levels higher than the original scenario. It must be because he is awakened as a perfect blood mage. Also, Kaya, who became a human, is safe, because the intention to kill and the instinct as a demon that the impermanent Elfert had conveyed had disappeared. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Note that the personality itself is not completely changed. Dramatic personality changes are repeated from time to time. Kaya is the same as Kaya. However, in order to deal with blood magic, the condition is that you have to become a vicious personality. Ian. Meh. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Next, I looked at the Ian fairy tale that Eden was holding. The blood that had been dripping from his forehead had already hardened. Everything will be better. He has a light attribute, so his recovery is amazing. If I woke up on the way, I was going to cover myself with the black ice, which is black ice. Then I could buy as much time as possible to hide my identity. Is it a matter of whether Rosetta will keep her mouth shut? Notice from the academic side. At that moment, Professor Fernando Frost's voice came from the bracelet. It seemed that the interference with the magic of the giant's skin had disappeared, and communication magic had finally begun to activate. Hunting evaluation is urgently terminated. Rescue operations are in progress, so everyone stay there. If there is anything unusual, report it immediately. Spread it again. Hey, Rosetta spoke up. She was sitting cross-legged, turning one shoulder that had become stiff. I have something to say. Can I do it? Did you ever get permission? Rosetta put a cross vein on her forehead to see if she was irritated, but she couldn't fight me. Ligeta is calming her emotions with deep breathing. That Rosetta softens her temper. Is this the logic of power? Don't ask for details. If it's a situation that a guy like you can't reveal, well, it must be a great situation. Was Chashok even brainwashed by demons? There's something really special about it. Are you a black monster? He must have been hiding his identity on purpose. I nodded. There is a matter. I'll reveal everything when the time comes, so keep it a secret. Then what are you going to say to the bachelors? It's absurd to brag about the fact that a demon like this has appeared and we only got it all out, isn't it? Besides, our location must be being grasped in real time, and the second-class guy is very bloody. In the end, the fact that we were connected with the demons is a situation in which academics have no choice but to notice. A black monster must have appeared. Rosetta slowly closed her eyes and stood up from her seat, touching the rock with Lokotaro. Soon, she opens her eyes again. Once you have your thoughts in order, I will keep you in order. I know which side you are on. The attitude has become very docile. But tell me one thing. Asmodeans, why do you crawl so often? Is there any secret hidden in this academy? I can't even say that. It was a fact that had not been revealed to anyone yet for fear of troubling things. He was hiding it for fear that it would become a burden on his heart, even to Kaya, who has a sense of camaraderie. But it was even more difficult to reveal to Rosetta. Do you have the personality to carry everything on your own? Ha, that's funny. I can't help you anyway. You idiot. It seems that even an unusually strong bastard like you is struggling. What should I do? Rosetta sighed after snoring. I didn't have much to say, so I didn't answer. Something like you, I wish I didn't know. Rosetta Lionheart. Psychology. I have a strong sense of inferiority to you. Is it a cliche in which a person who thought he was a genius faces a real genius and gets frustrated? I'm not a genius, so I don't know. But maybe Rosetta is feeling the same way right now. I'm not interested. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, Rosetta's feelings were not known at all. Let's go back. Now, I got up from my seat and started walking. If you use elemental magic to create stairs and ladders from here to the top of the sinkhole, you can easily get out. Rosetta followed me silently with Eden holding Ian and Jeff holding Kaya. The situation outside the sinkhole was quite serious. The cave collapsed and the road was blocked by the earthquake. Due to the influence of the giant skin, the wizards must have been in a situation where they could not properly use their powers. For the Imperial Knights, it must have been a difficult situation to move forward while cleaning up the ruins, because there have not yet been dispatched talented people who can cut rock debris lightly. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, now that the giant is gone, everyone should be able to easily use magic and blow away rocks and debris with ease. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Me and Rosetta proceeded towards the doorway, disposing of the debris with elemental magic. He was rescued safely by meeting the test supervisors running from the other side. This one is for that little chicken owl. On the bachelor's side, the rescue work was in full swing by moving the students using wind magic and a wagon. We rode a carousel to the marina. The students who had gathered at the marina could not keep their mouths shut when they saw how Rosetta, Ian, and Kaya looked like me. For a moment, even an awkward silence passed. Isaac. Then, at once, a female student ran towards me with her long rose gold hair fluttering. He was so frightened that his complexion was as pale as a corpse. It was Luce Eltania. At Luce Eltania? Psychology. I am deeply relieved that you are safe. Luce stopped in front of me and Rosetta and shook her head. It was a reaction that I showed by looking at the circumstances around me other than myself. First of all, Ian is fainting. There was quite a bit of blood dripping from his head. Likewise, Kaya fainted. The school uniform was all drenched in red blood. That courageous Rosetta showed signs of exhaustion. Some of the uniforms are burned or rolled due to Rosé's attack during the day. While the healers rushed and loaded Ian and Kaya onto stretchers, Luce bit her lips with a hard expression. Top. Luce's eyes, which seemed to contain the blue ocean, turned towards the Rosetta who called him. Luce seemed to organize her thoughts in her head, and then suddenly bowed her upper body to Rosetta. Thank you. Lisette was perplexed. The students who were watching us all looked embarrassed. The chief was wary of anyone who spoke to him. The woman who had shown only a cynical attitude to anyone except Isaac never cared about others. It was not unfamiliar to the students that he was expressing his sincere gratitude to Rosetta. Did you protect Isaac? Thank you so much. Rosetta was in a situation where she decided to talk to me. Rather, it was herself who was protected, so Rosetta herself would be absurd. But she struggled to keep silence in a cold sweat. Thank you for keeping your promise. Then, Luce raised her head and came towards me. No, I ran. Rue. Warrock. All in all. Luce hugged me tightly. She rubs her face against my chest and feels my body temperature. He hugged my waist tightly, as if he would never miss it again and didn't want to fall. Read at Noblemel. I'm glad you're safe. Isaac. Really? Really? Thank God. A voice as soft as the moonlight contained tears. I could feel Luce struggling to hold back the tears in my chest. To let you know that I've been through a lot. Then I've been going nonstop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My chest was stuffed. The way he genuinely cared for me and cried for me was very pretty and unique. I grabbed Luce's shoulder and pulled him out of my arms. He made eye contact with her and smiled. Don't worry, I'm safe without any pain. Thank you. Luce. Luce looked me in the eye for a while and then burst into laughter as she wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Isaac, come with me now. Can't you get away from me? Yeah. What? I am fine. Then, I'm wearing this. Suddenly, as if preparing in advance, Luce pulled out something similar to a restraint ball that he put on his wrist. What is this? What is that? It's a restraint. I bought it at an unmanned shop. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwumtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No. Crazy. Was it a real restraint? Let's put this on our wrist together. Then you can stick with it. It's unavoidable. Again, Isaac. It might be dangerous. Little boy, you have to stick with me. Deep expression. I know you were really worried about me. But Luce's judgment from that feeling was twisted in the wrong direction. Luce Altania, psychology. I have a strong protective instinct for you. I will protect you, little one. So, from now on, be safe by my side. Oh, Isaac. I quickly ran away from Luce. It was an instinctive run. When are you dating the chief? This one is for that little chicken owl. On the ship returning to the academy. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going nonstop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Me and Rosetta were sitting side by side in the cabin with a table in between. There were only the two of us in the room. For reference, Ian and Kaya were each resting in a private cabin, as in Magical Nights of Marchen. The fact-finding committee in this case was convened on a ship if it was discovered that the situation was not over yet. It was necessary to respond as quickly as possible. After that, as much as possible. Consideration was given to those involved in the incident so that they could take mental and physical stability. First of all, we had time to investigate the statements from Rosetta and I. Kaya and Ian were supposed to be called in after waking up and resting. By that time, it must have already been time to arrive at the academy. If the bachelor's side finds something that doesn't match after verifying the statements, I'll call Rosetta and me again. There would be no such thing, because the statement was made in advance. Rosetta also matched her words well. How did we get along? 1. I followed Ligeta, who I found by chance, to the center where I could earn a lot of hunting evaluation points. It was true. Until then, the location was being tracked by the bracelet, so I couldn't lie. 2. Seeing Rosetta entering the volcanic cave, I followed her later. But in the end, he ran into Rosetta, and there was an earthquake. This is the beginning of the phrase, because the test bracelet lost its location, tracking function because of the underground giant's magical power neutralization function. 3. The return road collapsed and blocked due to the earthquake. So I and Rosetta started looking for another way out. Then I fell into a sinkhole. 4. Ligeta jumped into the sinkhole to save me. Since it was impossible to return to the way we came in, we had to explore the body of the giant demon to find another way out. 5. On the way, I met Ian and Kaya, who were fainting. I took them with me as a workhorse. Sick. Suddenly, a black monster appeared and wiped out all the demons, even Deus Ex Machina. 7. We escaped well. End. The official convening list of the fact-finding committee also includes the student council president, Alice Carroll. So, it was better to avoid being interviewed after arriving at the bachelor's degree. By the way, you bastard Rosetta, you're talking nonsense. Rosetta was sitting on her chair in a drooping position, because he was exhausted. He seemed to be wrestling with whatever he could think of. It's not what you think. Oh, are you already dating? Baby, you're doing fine. Currently, Luce was moving on another vessel. When he ran away from the pier, Luce showed signs of summoning the Thundercreed, so he immediately made a U-turn. I didn't know that they would summon an 8-star workhorse to pursue me, I said. Wait, I thought you left your test bracelet somewhere else. It was on my wrist. He said foolishly. Then Luce said, of course, and laughed, reading the psychology. It seems that he thought I was joking to make him laugh. It can't be, you idiot. Afterwards, I explained to Luce that I had to cooperate with the investigation, so I had to go by boat. It was before the professor was guided, but according to the scenario, it was not wrong. Luce looked at me with suspicious eyes. It was fortunate that Professor Fernando came out with the voice of the bracelet at the same time and called Rosetta. Can't you follow me? I heard no. After exchanging those words one last time, Luce tumbled back with a regretful expression on her face. I didn't even know it would happen to my friends. I like Luce, however. Her habit, which can lead to an extra bad ending, is frightening. I thought it would be okay if I didn't find out that I was groomed. It was a mistake. Sooner or later, it seemed like it would be necessary to wear a tie, as if teaching a child. Luce, no matter how worried you are, it is wrong to suppress the freedom of the body. Then Luce will logically refute it. However, I had the weapon of swarming based on a good moral idea. With that, I can somehow break through her logic. Soon, the cabin door opened. The person who came in was a female healer. Did you say that you would become the guardians of Kaya Astriani? You may come now. At the words of the healer, Rosetta and I got up and moved. An entire cabin was used as Kaya's private ward. It was not a spacious room. The healers must have checked Kaya's condition and realized that there was nothing wrong with her body. So, he must have felt the need to take mental stability rather than physical stability, if possible. If someone close to you is by your side as a guardian, you will be relieved even in the situation of a victim. In the corner of the room, a female healer was waiting while reading a book. Kaya was sleeping like a mouse dead, with a blanket on the bed. She was dressed in a light brown robe changed by female healers. By the way, the loot was stolen in advance on the way back to the marina from the volcanic cave. It was a byproduct that remained in the form of an earring on Kaya's earlobe. Kaya Astrian. 140. Race. Human. Attributes. Wind. Ice. Plants. Blood. Risk. Psychology. Personality is as evil as it is. Yeah. There were 3 reasons why I came to Kaya. First, to get along with Kaya. Kaya will regain consciousness before the ship arrives at the academy. I will be called to the fact-finding committee immediately. There was never a chance to talk to her at this time. There is a healer in the corner of the cabin, so it is difficult to talk verbally. So, I was rescued by the test proctors along with Rosetta, and I was on my way to the marina in a carousel. I wrote down the delivery information on parchment that I had purchased in advance at the unmanned shop. I was planning to hand it over to Kaya. Second, I'm worried about Kaya. Kaya is my lover. Can I learn without worrying? I sat in the guardian seat next to Kaya's bed. Aren't you going to that light attribute guy? He's fine with Amy and Mateo. That's why I thought I could be Kaya's protector, as expected. Amy and Mateo asked the professor to become Ian's guardians. I was talking to him in Ian's hospital room. Who had come to his senses? It was a fact that I found out by looking at clearly earlier. By the way, I didn't have to agree on how to make a statement with Ian, because the guy was stunned all the time. Hey, I don't care if they both go back or not, so I'm just gonna rest. I feel tired. Yes. Rosetta left the hospital room. Before closing the door, she secretly glanced at Kaya. Rosetta Lionheart. Psychology. I'm worried about Kaya Astrani's physical condition. Jung-un, who was in the same class, seemed to exist. I'll have to tell you that Kaya is okay later. Silence came when Rosetta closed the door. I looked at Kaya quietly. Long straight hair, not the usual twin-tailed hair, also suited her very well. He stroked Kaya's pale cheeks with her fingers, soft to the touch. He was adorable and cute like a puppy. He is a boy who likes me as a man. There were ups and downs, but in the end it ended safely and I was very fortunate. From now on, we have to face the dual personality Kaya. The fact that any personality is Kaya herself will not change. That was when I was thinking about it. Chirp. Suddenly, Kaya bit my finger. It was sudden. It felt soft and moist to the touch. Startled, he reflexively withdrew his hand. Kaya opens her eyes and looks at me. Greatly. It was embarrassing. Kaya. Cheeks flushed red. Naughty smile. Those eyes were a strange crimson color, clearly different from the usual emerald color. Isaac, why were you touching my face? Did you want to touch me like that? Kaya's cute voice was full of cleverness. I knew that he had an evil personality, full of self-confidence, and a personality that actively confronts players. It didn't match Kaya's shy appearance when she saw only me, so she was speechless. Kaya's eyes turned to my hand that caressed her cheek. You can touch me more? Kaya Astrian. Psychology. I love you as the opposite sex? Man. Sad expression. Jula was cute. Cabin corner. The healer, who had been squinting at this side, coughed as a warning as if he was deliberately telling him to listen. Kaya's words and actions seemed unfamiliar. This one is for that lil chicken owl. Once you put your emotions to rest, let's calm down. Hey, how's your body? Asked in a calm voice. Then Kaya immediately raised her upper body. It's fine. My body is a little sore. Kaya groaned and stretched out. Then Kaya stares at me. Her red eyes, sparkling with vivid blood, had a brilliance that was different from my ordinary red eyes. I have to say it's very mysterious. Why? Do you have anything to say? It's awkward because we're just making eye contact. So I'll ask. An unexpected question came out of Kaya's mouth. Can I kiss you? Pooh. The healer in the corner of the cabin, who had been drinking juice for a while, spewed out the juice he had in his mouth and coughed in vain. Her reaction was representative of my feelings. Yes, unbeknownst to me. The words of respect came out.